Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Trent Russell. I'm the tech sales instructor at Course Careers. Today, we are highlighting Shu and his story breaking into tech, making the big bucks, living in New York City. Shu, why don't you share with everyone what you were doing before you got into tech, before you got exposed to Course Careers, and what really led to that pivot of you wanting to get into tech sales?
Yes. So originally, I started working in the restaurant industry for over 8 years, 9 years now. So I'm currently actually 27 at the moment. So I've been doing it since I was 19. So the reason why I want to transition into tech sales, when I was working inside the restaurant industry, I knew that I love working with the POS and those kind of technology functions. I realized that, okay, I want to do something like that, but at the same time, what are some of the skills that I can transfer over into making that transition into tech? And then I thought to myself there was different options to look into. And then last summer, I started looking into different things I can do, and I figured out and found out that, hey, tech sales was something that I can probably do because I already knew that I was already motivated, energetic, and also a people person in general. Because working in the customer service space, I know a lot of people think this, like, oh, like, I can talk, I can do stuff, I can communicate with people. There's people out there who really want to just try and do something. And then I realized, like, I'm not going to be an IT guy, or I'm not going to be a software engineer. That's going to be something down the line. But then I realized tech sales is something that I can really accumulate towards because I've been actually hitting my quota in my previous jobs too. And that's something that I could relate over, which transitioned pretty well when I was doing those interviews as well too. And then so yeah, that's where I started looking into boot camps. And then I figured, course careers is the most affordable option for me. And I realized that, like, I'd rather put in the work and see where I can go, down the line. It took me a little bit longer than for some people, but for me, I felt like the grind was really worth it for me, and the whole experience there was what I wanted for sure. Yeah.
When you talk about the grind being worth it, is that because you eventually landed at your dream company, or you now feel like, well, hey, I get bigger pay, more flexibility? What was it about that payoff that made all that hard work worth it?
Um, Generally speaking, I think it was the whole step by step experience too. It's not gonna be like the dream company that I wanted to work, but at the same time, it's something that I really wanted to work. It's a company that I really wanted to work. They really appreciate my ethics and how I am as a human being, and that part really made me feel like, okay, this is the company I wanted to work for. Like, as much as these interviews, I feel like a lot of people feel pressured through it. Of course, like, at some point you should be, but you also have to understand, like, at the end of the day, what are the company needs? What do they want? What kind of people are they looking for? And when you start doing your research and when you start actually going into those practices, doing those interviews, and you have multiple experiences doing those interviews, you start realizing that, okay, like, I think I know what to break down, because a lot of these a lot of companies that are actually looking for sales development roles or even business development roles, the requirements are pretty much the same, but it's more like, as a person or who you are, how confident are you and how well can you speak into it when you're actually doing these interviews. It's not really about the requirements of the job too. So I think that was a big focus point for me. The little by little experiences that came along the way.
How much did you know about tech and the role of being an SDR, BDR before going through the course?
Zero. Completely zero. Yeah, I had zero experience, Trent. Zero.
And after completing the course, how did it prepare you for your new job to land the role, but also after starting?
Yes. So one thing that really got me focused is, I think it was the basic training and knowing the knowledge of, if you were to go into the role, like, what are the things that you should know in advance to do it. A lot of times, I think right after when people graduate course careers, the first thing they have in their mind is like, okay, how do I apply for these jobs? How do I do it? And you start, wondering and guessing and stuff, but in reality, it's making those connections and getting to talk with those people. So, um, one of the things that I did right after the course too is, like, I did something that's a little bit off the course, but something a little bit more creative, because one thing in the course careers they mentioned is getting creative with how you make your approach or your outreach. What I did was, for one company, I actually outreached to a VP, and then luckily I was able to get onto a call with them. So I think, like, stuff like that, like, where people don't expect it, or things that people don't do, is something that really gets people, like, thinking like, oh, okay, this person wants to try to do something here. And luckily I was able to land an interview for that. So It was a great experience too, but I think there's generally speaking, like there's a lot of strategic approaches, but course careers generally just gives you an idea, like, how to prepare, like all those basic criteria and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's pretty much a big plus for you if you don't have any experience, you really want to do something, but at the same time, like, you just need to know and understand like what it takes for you to get into the sales development or business development role
Do
too.
you think you would have been able to navigate this process and eventually land the job in tech without course careers?
Definitely no. 100%. The reason why I say this is because I didn't have prior experience, and generally speaking, having course careers is a huge advantage for you because that gives you an ultimate leverage during the interview process. And they'll ask you questions like, oh, so how did course careers help you prepare? Like, oh, what did you do there? Like, those kind of questions would definitely pop out. It 100% popped out for me in those interviews. And then you can explain your point on what kind of things you did at course careers and how did that ultimately lead you to actually landing into those interviews too. That is already your experience, and that is something that you should leverage. A lot of times people think that you can't use that as your experience, but I definitely disagree. You can use that to your advantage, and please use that to your advantage if you do happen to take the course.
Can you talk about why you decided to become a course careers coach and how you see the coaching platform being useful to students?
So the reason why I got into being a coach at Course Careers was because myself, obviously, I took the course itself and graduated and actually ultimately landed the role or job. So I want, first of all, I couldn't become a coach, obviously, if I didn't land the role because it just doesn't make sense because I don't have the results to, say that I landed. But definitely the reason why I wanted to do it was ultimately just because I think everyone can do it. Like for me, like obviously I didn't come from any like tech sales background. I don't have any knowledge about tech prior before, taking course careers, and that's what ultimately helped me when I actually was taking the course itself too. There's so many people inside the course, even our Discord channel, even with through LinkedIn as well too. Everyone, would talk to me, come approach me and be like, "Hey, you're new to this." Like, oh, it's like, and then when you ask questions, they always have the answer for you. But a lot of times, I think people feel a little bit scared to kind of like approach, the course career students at first. So I wanted to create or I wanted to do something for people where they can, see my profile and come up to me and say like, hey, Shu, like I got questions for you. Like, how do you do this and this and that? I wanted to, like, ultimately do something that you do. Like, I just want to be able to be one of those people that can, create a door for them and open, a gate for them where they have the more confidence because I believe anyone really can do it with a little bit of persistence and hard work. And then ultimately going down the line, what I do want to experience with this whole coaching session is I just want people to get the experience and understanding that like, okay, like this is what I need to do, this is what I want to do, and if it's ultimately something that they want to actually go into and be doing it, and I just want people to succeed. That's all I really want out of this core coaching sessions.
Fantastic, Shu. Well, I can see it right now. Someone watching this is going to decide to start course careers and they're going to land their job and they're eventually going to be a part of your student cohort, the coaching, and they're going to say, Shu, I listened to you on that interview. I started. Now I'm here today. So it's going to come full circle soon enough. But Shu, thanks so much for being here today. This was useful to me to hear, but also I'm sure for everyone still listening. For those of you who are listening, and if you are interested in getting into tech, make sure to check out the free intro course below.